Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. Tuesdays at noon Eastern, I spend some time sharing information, answers to questions that you have about your job search. Now, normally this is on YouTube and LinkedIn, but there seems to be a little bit of a glitch with LinkedIn today where it's just not streaming live for some reason. So I couldn't promote it. I couldn't do anything to get it out there. On the one hand, it's showing that it's live. And on the other hand, I couldn't find it in search to be able to recommend it. So next week, it's scheduled for the usual time. And I'll just simply say, I hope to get this resolved by then. But otherwise, you'll have it on YouTube to be able to watch it. And what I try to do is answer your questions about job search. And if you can't make it live, what you do is you send me your questions through LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Mention that you saw this wherever you did, because I like knowing I'm helping some people. Once we're connected, your network is going to be a lot larger. So again, message me. And mark that you'll attend on LinkedIn if it's there, or on YouTube for that matter, and you'll get notification whenever, you get notification that the show has gone live and you can watch it at a later date. I'll also mention to you, join JobSearch.Community and get insider access to my video courses, books, and guides, and be able to ask me questions about your job search. Or at some of the tiers, most of the tiers except the bottom one, the insider level, you get personal coaching from me. So again, that's JobSearch.Community. JobSearch.Community. Now, before I start answering questions, I just want to mention that as I'm recording this at the beginning of September 2024, firms that are on a calendar year basis are finalizing budgets. And if you know someone who's in leadership and you're looking for a job, dang, you should be contacting them immediately, because sometimes they can write you into a budget. Sometimes they can write you in for a consulting assignment that can lead to a full-time position. So between now and the end of the year, you might consult to a firm and then be brought on to full-time staff. So get in touch with people you know now at firms before they finalize their budgets, because sometimes they can devise a position or a consulting assignment that fits you. So I received a number of questions from people. Before I start answering questions, my newest book came out last week. It's called 10 Steps to Changing Careers, Break Free and Do Work You Love. It's a little over 200 pages long. I really meticulously go through steps to take in order to change careers, so that in this way, you don't have to figure it out. I've already done that for you. The 10 steps are broken down into further steps. So it's not like one humongous thing to do all at once. It's really individual step by individual step that will lead you to the correct result. Now, it's available as a Kindle book, it's available as a paperback, it's available as an audiobook. So if you're at the gym or out for a run or a walk, you can listen to the book and get what you need from it. So again, 10 Steps to Changing Careers, Break Free and Do Work You Love. I'm very proud of this one, as I am of some of my others, in particular, the Ultimate Job Interview Framework and the Right Answers to Tough Interview Questions. So again, these are terrific books that will help you with your job search. Now, I received a number of questions from people before the show, because after all, it was a long weekend and folks are back at work and they've got a lot to do. So I understand that's one of the reasons why I offer that as an option. Message me through LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Notice that under my name on the screen, the Big Game Hunter, except one word, and you'll be able to get to me. So The first question for today is, sorry, there it is. I didn't fill out the optional relevant experience question for Indeed hiring managers. Does that really matter? If you don't have optional relevant experience that would sell you further, it doesn't really matter. Now, if you did, you should have done it. You should have taken the time to put yourself out there and be recognized for that work that you have, because it's a miss on your part. As a result, again, if you had the experience, you were being lazy, expecting that they would just read the resume and invite you. But remember, you're competing with a lot of different people who are also applying, and they don't have the time to contact everyone. Sometimes that optional relevant experience question is used as a tiebreaker by a hiring manager in order to figure out whether or not someone is more qualified than other people. So does it matter really? Not if you didn't have anything else that was useful to add in, but if you did, it does matter. It's a missed opportunity on your part. Next question. And again, before I go there, I'm just going to mention, for those of you on YouTube who are watching live, if you've got a question about your search, put it into chat so I can answer it for you, okay? Next question is, how can I negotiate a higher salary during a job interview without alienating the employer? The key phrase in there is without alienating the employer. You don't have control over them and their response to the negotiation. So let's just concede that point, please. You don't have a response, you don't have control over their response to your questions. Now, if we're talking about negotiating the offer after they've made it, I've got a video on YouTube called The Easiest Way to Negotiate a Higher Salary for Yourself. It's part of my salary negotiation course on jobs at JobSearch.Community. Wherever you see it, it's a great video that offers a tactic for negotiation post-offer that allows most people to get more money over people from a firm, because it's not really a threatening approach. It's not putting a gun to someone's head and telling them, do this or else I'll turn the offer down. Ooh, nothing like that. It really is a low-key, gentle approach to negotiation. If you were talking about during the interview, one of the things I talk with people about in my coaching practice is to say to when they're asking about how much you're looking for, often what they're doing that at the beginning of the interview before you know a lot about the job. And by the time the interview series is over, you found out that this is a more demanding job than they let on in the ad. So you're going to want to push the number up, right? It's why often when we get to an interview and they say, so how much are you looking for? Could you give me a sense of what the range is for the role? And you'll do a little bit of back and forth about who should speak first. And they'll try and pressure you into revealing a salary that you'd find acceptable. Even if they tell you what the range is, they're going to try and pressure you into committing. And thus, the thing I would encourage you to do is to say to them at some point in this back and forth, look, I can agree to any number now. But the fact is, all I know is what I've read. I haven't met my future boss. I haven't met the team. I don't have a sense of what the expectations are going to be or the demands of the role. I just know what I've read. And can we talk about this later? And if they say, no, I need a number from you now, you give them a number and then say, please understand, once I find out more, I may change this number higher or lower. I need to know more. So I'm going to give you a number now, but understand I'm not committed to this number at this point because I just don't know enough to speak with certainty. And thus, when you get to the offer phase or get later on in the process, all you do is you say to them, having learned what I know about the job, I now know about the job, is a little bit more demanding than what the ad suggested or what my friend Leon suggested or the recruiter suggested. So I'd be looking for a little bit more than what I previously told you. How much more? And you tell them how much you're looking for. That doesn't mean that you'll get it, but they'll try and get you to be a little bit more flexible at that point. And this is about whether you have the strength without appearing to be obnoxious to make a case for why they should pay you that amount of money. I found over the years that once they're interested in someone, firms are much more willing to be flexible about their salary ceilings than they are at the beginning of the interview process. So your goal, first and foremost, is to make them fall in love, because no love and you're not getting an offer. It's that simple. And if they are in love, sometimes they're willing to be more flexible. So I'm just going to remind you, if you've got a question about your job search, put it into chat so I can answer it live. I'll also mention to join JobSearch.Community, where I've got all my video courses. My new book isn't there yet. It'll be up in the next day or so. All my video courses, books, and guides. And you can ask me questions about your job search or have me coach you in your job search. Again, JobSearch.Community. I've made a number of the tiers very inexpensive, and I have a tier that's much more expensive that's designed for more intensive contact with me, plus all the content. No matter what level you join at, you get the content from me that will help you learn. And, again, there's lots of opportunity to get coaching from me through JobSearch.Community. Let's see now, the next question. Can you explain the meaning of resume forwarded in an email from a recruiter? Yes, I can explain that. They received your resume and they have forwarded it to their client. If it's a corporate recruiter, the hiring manager, they've sent it ahead, and thus you were not instantly rejected by their applicant tracking system. Woohoo! So I'll just simply say, you got past the first screening round, which was the applicant tracking system and the human screener, and it's now in the hands of a hiring manager who's there to actually make the decision as to whether or not they want to speak with you. That's all it means, okay? Let me just copy and paste this question. Okay, got it copied. Now let me paste it. What is the difference between resumes that are sent directly to the recruiting team and those that are passed on to hiring managers for review? Why do some companies have two different processes? The rest of the sentence is, the rest of the question is there, so I just truncated it. So if it goes to the recruiting team, it's going to HR. They're there to reject. They're there to filter out resumes that are obviously not a fit for the role. That's their job. Passed on to the hiring manager, demonstrates a tighter fit for the required qualifications, and perhaps a person has experience similar to what would be done if they join the firm. So as a result, the difference between the two is the team can purely reject. The hiring manager decides whether or not she or he wants to interview someone because you'd be working for them. They don't have time to talk to everyone. They've got an actual job to do. One of the parts of that job is to hire people, and the rest of it is to do the function. So why do some companies have these as two different processes? If the resume goes to the hiring manager, they're spending a lot of time on the train, the bus, when they get home, at work, reading resumes and deciding who to talk to, and then doing the scheduling process. It's a time suck that takes them away from the core element of their job, which is to, I don't know, work in IT, managing an accounting function, managing a logistic function, whatever it is. It takes away from the core function that they've been hired to perform. And the firm needs them to deliver something within a time framework. So they separate the two out in order to ensure that people are still working. It's kind of like you could make dinner, but sometimes you order in or you do takeout. Why do you do that? Because sometimes you're in the mood, or sometimes you have a preference for having that type of food, right? Well, on their side, well, yes, the hiring manager could do it, but they have a lot of other things to do. So it's outsourced to another department, a team of people who are there to screen resumes and determine whether or not a person has a background that on the surface might fit the role that's needed to be filled. That's it. That's the reason for it. Let's go to the next question. And that question is it okay to ask a job interviewer who held the position and why that person left for the job I'm interviewing for? It doesn't really matter who held it. And if I were them, I wouldn't tell them who held it. I would just simply say, I'm curious. There was obviously a person in this role previously, right? Are they still with the firm? Have they left? What did they do well? What didn't they do well? Now, why they left this job for another position? Easy. They found something they thought was better. But that isn't what they're going to say. They'll say they left for a better opportunity. What made it a better opportunity? Well, they wouldn't be working for me, is an answer that no one's ever given. So what you're going to hear is something superficial. However, if you ask them, what did this person do well? What could I do differently than them that would make you happier? You'll learn something from that second part of the question that's really useful, because often it's going to be the criticism of the person who was in this job previously, except it's been sanitized to give you some guidance for what it is that they want you to really do. Okay. And let's go to this was a fun question. What does a technical recruiter do? I thought this was hysterical. And I speak from the perspective of I was a technical recruiter for many, many years. Many, many years. And in being a technical recruiter, I did a lot. I had to talk to my institutional customers, and I had to get an institutional customer, because I'm going to go back to day one many years ago. I had to find a client who had a job that needed to be filled. So I would go talk to people until I found something to work on. And once I did, I had to identify people who might have that background. I talked to a lot of frogs before I found the prince that I could refer to a client. And often they didn't find this person was a prince, even though I did. Then I would learn from them how they evaluate and assess people, until I ultimately got to the point of scheduling interviews, which was another part of the job. Back in the Stone Ages, scheduling was complicated because you were doing it by phone. There was no email back in the Stone Ages. But now you can text or email people to schedule. And then from there, sometimes by the time you've gotten to the point of scheduling, one side or the other isn't available at that time any longer. So you're doing it all over again. You're preparing people for the interview by giving them a briefing on what to expect, both in terms of the people and the nature of the interview, so that they're able to prepare adequately for the interview. You're giving them a sense of who they're meeting with. you're negotiating compensation if a firm wants to hire someone. There's just a lot that a technical recruiter will do, including save the sale, save the hire, because sometimes when people give notice, their firm will counter that resignation and improve their current salary because they want to keep that person. So there's a lot of negotiation that goes on as part of the work. But ultimately, I'm the middleman, or I was the middleman between a job hunter and my institutional customer who hired me to find someone to fill a job that they needed to have done. And all these things I've described since are designed to demonstrate the various tasks that go into it. Again, if you've got a question for me, put your question in the chat so I can answer it live. Also, join me at JobSearch.Community and get insider access to all my video courses, books, and guides. Ask me questions about your job search. Have me coach you throughout your job search so I can help you land in your next position. After all, despite what the government says, if you're a LinkedIn user, it is tough out there. Firms are not hiring a lot of you. As a result, I don't care what field it is, unless you work in healthcare, social services, or for a government of some sort. Those are the big three that have been hiring consistently for the past 2 years. And for those of you who are private sector employees, it's tough out there. So I created this site in order to help more people land work, do it inexpensively, so that you learn a lot without having to spend money on direct coaching, unless you think that would be helpful. Okay. Okay. How might I persuade you to hire me for a well-paying remote job? Now, I know you don't mean me, but how might I persuade a hiring manager to hire me for a well-paying remote job? The first way is to identify what in your background they need and be willing to allow you to work remotely from. Now, I'll start off with the premise of what do they need to have done is requirement number one. What background do I need to have? And then for well-paying, be very qualified at, be exceptional, be world-class, be someone who, when firms look you up on LinkedIn, they recognize that you're someone who can solve their problem. Then for a remote job, you know the nature of the work, and you may, if you're finding this job on certain sites, know whether they're open to being bringing on someone remote. So the result winds up being they're looking for people with certain qualifications, and they want to bring on people who can help them solve a problem. It's really that simple. Someone who can help them solve a professional problem. So the long and the short of it is, what you need to be doing is demonstrating that this is work that can be done remotely, that you have the skills and experience necessary to allow them to trust you to do this job remotely. Because remember, not everyone works with integrity. And thus, some managers have trust issues because they like to feel like they're controlling, they're in charge, we're in control. And thus, you want to show to them that they can trust you and they can bring you on board and get a job done that needs to be done. Okay? So again, if you've got a question for me, put it into chat so I can answer it live. Also, join me at JobSearch.Community, where I've got video courses, books, and guides to help you get insider access, and I'll answer your questions, do coaching with you, help you land your next job more quickly. Again, that's JobSearch.Community. There is more I've got here. When an executive at the company where you've been doing contract work is keeping you in the dark about the status of an offer to hire you full time? Does it do any harm to look for another job in the meantime? The answer is, I was going to be crass and say, it's the right thing for you to do. If they're avoiding the conversation, they don't want to talk about it yet, and you have a responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your dog or cat, that you're working. So if they're avoiding you in this conversation, it probably means they don't want to tell you the hard truth, or they want you to work up until the very end before they drop the bomb on you, or they want to see your performance at the very end so that you don't just take it for granted that you're someone who's going to be joining on the full-time staff. So is it, let's see now, if they're keeping you in the dark, does it do any harm? No. I would say the most important thing that you do if you get another offer is to contact them quickly and say, I've been waiting to have a conversation with you about converting to full-time staff, and I now have an offer from a firm that wants me to join them. And then you shut up. But why? We love you. You're so important to us. Please stay. Don't go. What's it going to take? What's it going to take? And the response to that is, I've been trying to have this conversation with you for a while. I do have this other offer. Let's talk turkey here. What can you propose? And then have a salary question for them. And will my role change? And they'll hedge a little bit. So I need more certainty because this firm is offering me a great job, a terrific salary. It's in the same ballpark as yours. But the long and the short of it is I need to understand what I'll be doing going forward. And by doing that, remember, you've got leverage at this point. You have a choice between this job and this job. And thus, you're not at their beck and call. So good for you. Yes, go out there and try and find something else. And good luck to you. Should you consider a recruiter rude and unprofessional if they reject your resume, but then call or email you for another position? No. They're not either rude or professional. If anything, they're being very professional. Your background probably didn't fit the role that you sent the resume in for, or didn't make a strong enough case for why you were qualified vis-a-vis the other 200 resumes they received. That's not rude. That's smart on their part. Unprofessional? What's unprofessional about it? They're inviting you for an interview for a job that they think you're qualified for. It may be a different one than the one you submitted your resume for, but so what? So what? They're trying to get you on board and they want to see if you're qualified. That's why they're trying to interview you, right? So the long and the short of it is, no, it's neither rude or unprofessional. If anything, it's extremely smart on their part that they're trying to do this. Good luck. I hope something works out for you. And I think this is going to be my last question for today, unless someone puts something in the chat. What is the reason behind employers asking for 3 references, professional job-related references, instead of just 1? Well, back in the day, in the Stone Ages, when I began in recruiting, and people were calling up on a landline phone to another landline phone, they were impatient. And thus, they wanted to get 3 references in order to make sure they got to someone, or at least 2 people, before extending an offer. Now it's a little bit easier, but the habit still exists. They want to talk to people who know your work. And in knowing your work, they want to be able to understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, get their perspective on how they see you being qualified for this role, et cetera, et cetera. So they ask for 3 to try and accelerate the process. But it also comes out of the habit from the past that, we want to check 3 references has been part of the language for a long time, and they keep up with it. So I'm Jeff Altman. I hope you found today's show helpful. My website is JobSearch.Community, where I've got video courses, books, and guides that will help you with your search. The video courses are extremely good. There's a number of extremely good books I've written. The Ultimate Job Interview Framework teaches a methodology for job search. I also have a video course of the same thing at JobSearch.Community. Seriously, become an insider or an Insider Plus member or any of the other tiers so I can help you more directly. Also, I'm going to remind you, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Mention that you saw this so I know where you found it. I know I'm being helpful. Once we're connected, your network is going to become a lot larger. I've got like 30,000 first level connections plus followers as well. You get access to all of them as your second level connections, which will accelerate your contacts on LinkedIn pretty dramatically. I hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.